Okay, welcome back, people. Happy Tuesday, everyone. And what a happy Tuesday it is. One like no other for me. Indeed, indeed. Because as a birthday present, last week on Sunday, my country finally got rid of communism after 70 years. Yes, after a Chinese slash Russian puppet taking control, a puppet government taking control of the country after 70 years. Finally, the legislative is now balanced. Adios, says Patrick. No communism anymore. Indeed, Patrick. Happy for you. Indeed, Patrick. Indeed. A real miracle. It is finally over. Before we proceed, people, before we begin with day number 27 of metaphysical analysis of Drakensang online, that was your birthday. Yeah, yeah, it was. I actually got some real birthday presents, but that one was. That one was that one was brutal. I was I was well. I'll tell you the story now. But first, before we begin, thanks to Mr. Alex Giannakopoulos, I presume from Greece, for being the 88th YouTube subscriber there from the bottom of my heart. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, Alex. There. First of all, thank you. I don't want to listen to myself. Let me resize this. So, thank you, Alex. Hope you all YouTube viewers are enjoying this. In the case of you, Cloudy, that you left me a comment 29 minutes ago, to be precise, over at YouTube. That yeah, remember you were one of the first YouTube subscribers. I remember you. I told you in a previous comment, if you are watching this in the future, and you told me that you enjoy the debates a lot. Well, I have news for you, because over at YouTube you are watching past broadcasts. So in that sense, they only get better from that point onwards, because for those of you here over at Twitch, Patrick, over at YouTube, they watch the streams, the VODs, like with months of difference. For example, and I had a person tell me that basically he enjoyed the debates in a comment, but basically they are only beginning where they are over there. It's like when we started Drakensang. Basically. So yeah. Okay, getting to that, Patrick. Getting to that. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. It was a surprise. An absolute surprise. Not even all right for the stream people. Basically, we've already covered everything that the game has to offer, everything that it has to offer, pretty much 100%. We've analyzed every single aspect. Uh, we only have the final analysis left for us. I'm bringing the debate topics first. No, always thank you, Patrick. Thank you, because indeed, while I had no problems streaming completely completely alone, it is true that it's much richer always when there's people in the chat, without a doubt. And even more right from the beginning, as you visit me. So that is absolutely replaceable, because in that sense it ensures that at least the stream gets it's much richer. Even more when there's people like you and me and everyone else in the channel with a huge brain debating deep ideas instead of shallow topics. In that sense, because we could debate, and we could be debating stupid things like what was the latest thing that happened in social media in that sense, or any other stupidity. But no, it's not the case here. So people, for the analysis, we've already covered everything. That's why you see I'm debating with my friends here over at Twitch. So pretty much only the final analysis is left. I've already covered every single topic that the game has to offer. Pretty much, we are getting into the end game of it. We are roughly 80% through the story, or more than that, even. So, only the final analysis, when I will finally dissect the game, is left. So that's, you will see that these are more like leisure gameplay streams. We are we are actively analyzing the incredible adventures of Van Helsing, as we are just starting another isometric action RPG game. But this week do we will do the Halloween special that District asked me about, because if I am not mistaken, let me check that. This week is Hallows End. Yes, indeed, it's the final week of October. I should do the Halloween special this week. So tomorrow we will play a special Halloween game in that sense. We'll play only one. So we'll do that special. With the Darkness 2, as I told to District, and then we'll resume our usual schedule. Debate time. Debate time, says Patrick. Sure. Whichever you'd like. Sure or sure. If Crowbar ever returns, I think I could copy his audio track from a private message over at Discord. So yeah, pretty much. His Northern Irish accent. Then we need to do another competition of that one. That one was amazing. No competition. Okay, here for what we are doing here, people, we have this objective of basically killing 500 enemies. Here, that's basically what we have to do. We have to kill 500 of these little guys to proceed with the main story. I'm just doing the main story here, people, and pretty much it demands me to kill these little guys, basically. You read about communism a bit, more about Marxism. I have questions about that. Oh, sure, fire away, Patrick. You know that I read about Marxism before discovering realism. Of course. So yeah, and I had to debate against communists in law school. Quite interesting experience. But well. At least back when I studied, it was still a common concept that communism was a utopia. In that sense, nowadays it was clear even for leftists that communism was an impossible utopia. But nowadays, I doubt they would say that. They would say it's absolutely possible. So we've devolved instead of making any progress. We are going backwards instead. But well, if Pillow was here, he would say, look who's speaking about going backwards. The one guy that supports medieval monarchies. Well, but they were more mature psychologically. What are you gonna do? In that sense. So yeah, basically, as Patrick pointed out, as a great birthday present, my country is finally free of communism. Finally free. We will be the strategic partner of the United States after this. And I love. No. Before I get into your question, Patrick, you know what is the comment right now by the Democrat Party, for example? Right now in the United States, they are saying that Trump put money to steal the election. They say that Trump put money just to steal the election. No, what he did was a swap. Silly Democrat. No, what he did was a swap. For those of you who don't understand in economics how a swap works, a swap is not a loan. A swap is leaving the money available for the other country, because we are allies, it's true, more after yesterday, even more after yesterday, is leaving the money ready to use for the country in case it's needed. Here it wasn't needed, it was not used. We have the money available to fight the communists, but it hasn't been used before the election. It hasn't been used even up until now, and it probably won't be used. That's the difference between a swap and a loan. Between a swap and a loan in economic terms. So the money is still there. For those of you for the Democrats who say that Trump gifted us money for no, it's a swap, and in fact, they earned money personally. Trump and the other one, the Secretary of the Treasury of the Treasury of the United States, Besant, basically, is the one who was in charge of that. I know it because it's been in the news here all the time. They won money because they betted against what the communists were doing, that was betting against the local currency. They betted in favor of the local currency, thinking that my president was going to win the election, and the communists betted against their own currency. They betted in favor of the dollar and against our local currency. That's what happened, and they lost money, and now they are mad. And now they are mad because they lost money, because they never thought that the US would support, and then the election would turn out like this. I read the Communist Manifesto and read, oh well, what an adventure, Patrick. And Karl Marx made sure to write Marxism like a fairy tale utopian like that. Well, indeed. Well, let's get into something interesting about Karl Marx. Because everyone always says, oh, but the monarchy this, oh, but the monarchy that. Okay, but they live like in a different reality. Okay, I generally don't do ad hominem fallacies. That is criticizing the person instead of the idea. But this will be illustrative, Patrick. Karl Marx liked prostitutes, as well as his dear friend Engels, another guy called Engels. He liked prostitutes. He had children, and he didn't work. He was lazy, and he liked prostitutes. He also liked alcohol. That is a terrible combination for anyone who wants to analyze reality. Prostitutes, alcohol, and he was lazy. For example, let's do a modern example. Something silly. I won't even use real work like teaching English like I do, or my family's business about condo management, or when I went for software development as well, or anything, or learning English, learning a second language, anything that involves effort. Let's just imagine that Karl Marx tried to be a streamer for a second. For example, as I have constantly told you people, I spent 4 years streaming completely alone. Like no one, because of the shitty games that I chose, or whatever the fuck. What would have been his reaction? He would have stopped, of course. He would have stopped because he was lazy. He was a lazy individual. Who would have rather dissipated his psychological problems through alcohol and prostitutes. Let's begin with that. Aristotle didn't do this shit. Plato didn't do this shit. Thomas Aquinas definitely didn't do this shit. In fact, he was locked up in a dungeon, tempted by his own family to not become a celibate monk and get locked up in a monastery with the prostitutes. Precisely, he was locked up in a dungeon by his own family to tempt him not to to not uh, to not become a philosopher. So Karl Marx, the absolute opposite of this shit. So basically, so let's not get into the ad hominem fallacy. This was just a silly context, because if they are going to insult monarchies, if people are going to gratuitously insult monarchies from Great Britain, Norway, Denmark, and etc., then I had this debt with myself, first of all. But let's not get into an ad hominem fallacy. Never do an ad hominem fallacy as your only argument. That is insulting the person instead of the argument. Let's get into it. So basically, the idea is that the workers take the means of production from. Sorry, I have to laugh a bit, people. But the workers take the means of production from from anyone who created a business, any business, basically. So, Mr. Engels and Mr. Karl Marx were like they were, and they suggested, since they wanted to be lazy, sorry, it's the reality of the situation, they wanted to be lazy, what's easier, work or put in effort, or directly take the means of production from the people? It is easier to take the means of production from other people who were stupid enough as to put in effort, right? See how bad it sounds at the beginning of the... So, when that happens, then it initiates a period. It initiates a period which is the dictatorship of the proletariat. What is this, or why is it caused first? Well, it is caused because supposedly when the worker works, it adds something called, I don't know how it is in English, the plus value, I don't know how to call it, I know the name in Spanish, the plus value. Supposedly there's like some magical extra value to what the worker does, but the businessman is a piece of shit. The businessman does not put in anything of extra value. So basically what the worker does is more valuable than what the businessman does. This, from an economic standpoint, is completely wrong, because the businessman is taking more risks than the worker. Even from common sense, people think, if you're starting a business, it can go right or it can go wrong. For it to go right, potentially, you don't know, you have to take loans. You have to buy some products to sell, right? Or some services, products or services, right? You have to hire employees, indeed. You have to hire employees. You have to pay them salaries. You have a lot of responsibilities, and etc. Now, what happens if it goes wrong? What happens with that loan that you initially took, thinking that things could go right? You still have to pay it. You still have to pay for it. Ah, but my business went to shit. I don't think the bank will care about that. Now, let's see the opposite situation. What happens if the worker is somehow fired because the company is not doing well? What happens? The worker is fired, and hopefully, if the state, there is a different story, the state and the government are healthy, he should have several other jobs available and should go back to it. But he doesn't have a debt with the bank because his original idea was wrong, because there was an entrepreneurship risk involved into it, because there was a company risk involved into it. So, as you can see, from empirical evidence, we can derive that someone who starts a business actually is taking more risks than a worker. in that sense, because at the end of the day, to create a business, you will need a big one, at least, or middle, not necessarily big one, but a middle-sized one. You will need money, loans from the banks, and it won't matter that you cannot pay them. In the case of the worker, if the company stops producing, the worker is fired, and hopefully, if the country is healthy economically, will find another job. But there isn't a debt left behind. The person who created a business will have a debt in that sense if he fails. The risk is higher. So if the risk is higher, it is absolutely false. It is absolutely false what Karl Marx said that precisely that precisely that precisely that precisely the workers the thing that the worker gives to the to the employer is somehow has an extra value in the relationship that basically the employer does not provide, that the worker provides an extra value that the employer does not provide to the relationship, that is more valuable, that basically the worker provides something of more value than the employer. Basically, that's the idea. It has a specific name in Spanish, but I don't know it in English. I never studied it in English. It has to be the plus value or something like that. It has to be something like that, the translation. So basically that. So it's more valuable. It's not more valuable because how can it be more valuable when the employer is taking more risk in that sense? I will go up against the argument. It is a fairy tale utopia. It is a utopia, but Marxism isn't flawed because of this only. That would be a secondary reason. It is flawed because it is a direct consequence of relativism, of course. It is a direct consequence of relativism. And second of all, because it ignores the most basic economic concepts, and I will prove it to you. Instead of me saying that communism is absolutely stupid and flawed in its logic because it is a utopia that can never be reached, it is because it challenges the most basic economic concepts, Patrick. Think about this. If communism was right, it would be extremely easy. To solve poverty. And I'll tell you how. Imagine this, Patrick. Think with me. What would you think it would happen if I increased the salaries of all of the population to $3 million? Everyone earns $3 million. I grab my country. I say, I have the solution. You all work for 2 hours and you all earn $3 million. What do you think it would happen? What do you think would happen, Patrick? What do you think would happen? Everyone works 2 hours and everyone earns $3 million, regardless of the job. And there you have the proof of why communism is economically flawed. Not because of the utopia that you are mentioning. That is another reason. That is generally the reason people use. That it sounds extremely good, but sadly it's impossible. No, it's not that it's sadly impossible. It is that it was sadly written by people who weren't intellectually prepared to address basic concepts of economics. Nobody would work hard. No, wrong. What would happen to the economy? No, it's not the point that. It's not the point that. Imagine that they work hard There's a miracle and they work hard for 2 hours. And everyone earns $3 million. What do you think it would happen? What do you think it would happen economically? It's not that the point. See, you are missing the point. They are tricking you. You are missing the point. What do you think it would happen? Everyone earns $3 million. They work hard. Let's imagine they work hard. Everyone earns $3 million as a standard minimum wage salary. I just said that. I go and do a bill over at the Congress saying that everyone earns $3 million. You'll see the real reason. What do you think it would happen? Well, it would cost something. Well, this is related to the history of my country and what we finally got rid of the other day. What would happen is that it would cost something called inflation. Do you know what inflation is, Patrick? Do you know what inflation is? If communism was right, if Marx and Engels were right, not because of the usual criticism that you just said that, oh, it sounds so good, but it's a utopia, it cannot be practiced in reality. No, it's worse than that. Yeah, of course. Well, it's worse than that. It challenges the most basic economic concepts. If they were right, I could simply pass a bill over at the Congress, say that everyone works for 2 hours, and with that, everyone earns $3 million. And there, I solve poverty. No, I wouldn't solve poverty as Marx and Engels initially thought. It wouldn't. Why? Because it would destroy the intrinsic value of the currency of the country, in that sense. It would destroy it completely. You would print a lot of bills. But they would lose their intrinsic value. What's going on with these sheets? I couldn't move. It would lose their intrinsic value. Why? Because the only way to satisfy the demand of everyone earning $3 million would be to print bills. And just like any other good, this is basic economics, people. This is basic economics. Over at university, when you, even if I studied to be a lawyer, we had basic economics. This is basic culture and basic economics, people. This is why math is important, Patrick, as well, and why basic economics are important. Basically, currency, the currency of a country, regardless of which one it is another good of the economic system. And what happens when to satisfy the $3 million minimum wage salary of a country, of this hypothetical country in this case, I start printing bills to ensure that I give $3 million to everyone. Well, when there's more supply, the demand falls. The demand falls, indeed. When there's a lot of supply, the demand falls because there's no scarcity of that good in the economic system. And because of that, this is the part that Marx and Engels cannot fucking explain. It's not a problem that it's just a utopia because the workers create a revolution and everyone is happy. No, it's because it challenges common sense and the very basic rules of an economic system for the last 2,000 years. That is the real problem. It's not just that it's a utopia. It would be so good if it could be right. No. It would be a piece of shit because precisely it would try to go against the basic rules of economics. So I start printing. I print the bills. I increase supply. I increase supply. I increase supply. I destroy the scarcity of the good in the economic system. What happens then? It loses its intrinsic value, right? So it generates a phenomenon called inflation. There's no way for anyone who loves Marx and Engels to explain inflation. So, and this is the trick that they use modernly. This is the trick that they use modernly. So they say, oh well, it doesn't matter. But why is Marxism so seductive for a lot of people? Because of what I'm going to tell you now. Because it also creates something called a cultural Marxism, which is hatred of class, hating people, because it's very tempting to not take responsibility for your actions if you don't have money, if you are lower class, for example, and blame your miseries. It is based on envy. On envy. So you blame your this is cultural Marxism, it's the cultural part of it. It bases itself on envy of the lower class for the middle, or it doesn't need to be. This is the mistake. People think it's hatred for the rich. No, it's not only the rich. It's anyone who has even one more thing that you don't have. The base is that it instills envy in those who it preys upon those who have needs, sadly, who are lower class. It targets that specific portion of the population. Or not necessarily those, but also middle class regarding high class. This is the mistake. People think it's just, oh, hatred by the lower class for the higher class. No, it instills envy and hatred for anyone who has even one more thing that you don't have. For example, I don't know, it doesn't need to be a millionaire. For example, let me grab my, I don't know, here, my PS Vita, for example, my PS Vita. I have to clean the screen. No worries, people. For example, my PS Vita. I show my PS Vita. For example, Marxism. And if we follow the theory of Marxism, regardless of the fact that I am not millionaire, due to the fact that I have this, for example, the lower class is encouraged. Not the lower class. Anyone who doesn't have this is the mistake. Anyone who doesn't have the means of production to get a hold of the specific product, it doesn't matter which one it is to be my enemy. That is cultural Marxism. Not appropriating the means of production for any good. People just reduce it generally because it is related to this hatred of envy and hatred of the lower class for the higher class. But no, it's any result of not appropriating the means of production. For example, because of this, now what should everyone do in this case? They should go to Sony, for example, appropriate the factory. See how stupid it is. Appropriate the factory, take it by force, kill all of the poor Japanese owners of the means of production that put in a lot of research and development effort to create this shit and everything. And like that, everyone will have a nice PS Vita like me. That is basically the idea. It's not just hating people who have more money than you without even questioning if they put in any effort to get it. It's that. It's deeper than that. It's appropriating the means so other people cannot have those things without everyone having it in the first place. That causes inflation. Not to mention that investors would run away would run away from a country that does this stupidity. In that sense. Oh, what's this? Oh, we are fucked. No more main quests. What is the meaning of this? What the fuck? There are no more main quests. Oh, what? Oh, there are no more main quests. What? No, please tell me that is. Oh no, shit. Please tell me that there can be some more. Where did we? I think we left here. But yeah, basically, why is it seductive for a lot of people? Because it's an easy answer, morally, even more specifically. It was, and sometimes it is, an easy answer. There it is. There's the main quest. I found it, people. I found it. There we go. You are true to your word. As a thank, I will fulfill my side of the bargain. Here is my special mixture that can break any wall in the underworld, no matter how strong the memory is. Perfect. And with that, we go back. This is the main quest, right? Hang on, people. Let me check it. Yeah, it is still the main quest. Dark Heritage. Indeed. And it's the final part of it. So we can finally destroy the crumbly wall. Okay, we have a long way there. So, why is it seductive, Patrick? Because it is an easy answer. It is an easy answer in which the passive subject, that is the person who is receiving the message, the passive subject of it, does not have any responsibility in it. Right? Who is to blame for your miseries? The owner of the means of production, the Volgois class. But see that I proved to you that it's not a class. It's anyone who has anything that you don't. And that's really impossible to go against. Everyone has things in any economic system. Everyone will have an object that another person doesn't have. Because we all have different tastes and etc. And the thing is to have a healthy economy. And that mindset, precisely, it scares investors. It does the opposite of it, and it creates misery and inflation because of what I explained to you. Because if it was right, if they would have been right, then it would be simple. Everyone earns $3 million. That's it. I exterminated poverty in 1 second. Why is it that people with a brain, with knowledge about economics, which Marx did not have, he was a political commentator, let's say, I guess. Despite all of the things that I said about personal life, I would use another adjective, but I digress to comment about those things. Since he didn't know about economics, just like, for example, Obama did not know about economics, he didn't understand the concept of inflation. Why is it seductive for a lot of people? Because the passive subject, as I told you, does not take any responsibility. If you are lower class, well, blame the high class. And this is related to how it supposedly solves it modernly. So, if you cannot print, let's get into it, into the second part, Patrick. If you cannot print bills, because it creates inflation, if you cannot print bills, what do? There is a second option, which is the tempting one that they are using modernly. There is a second option. Increasing the taxes. Does it sound to anyone here? Increasing the taxes. Increasing the taxes, which of course scares investors, and of course generates inflation as well. That's the second, but instead of printing bills, you increase the taxes of the population. But you say this, imagine this, But you tell to, in the context of cultural Marxism, you specifically tell the target of your the target uh, of your message, the one that you want to convince, so they keep voting for you or appropriating the means of production by force in the case of Marx. What do you tell them? But it's not gonna be you. It's not gonna be you. It's gonna be the rich. The rich. We are going to take from the rich to give to the poor, Robin Hood style. When you take from the rich by force like that to give to the poor, you scare investors. When you scare investors, they move their money outside of your country. They move their money outside of your country naturally because they are scared by your illiteracy. They see that you did that whoever was elected by a specific country doesn't have the minimum amount of knowledge. We are not talking about being a genius. He can have a minister of economy. He can have a secretary of treasury. He can choose people to handle the things that he should understand. He's not prepared to handle. However, Marxism, sadly, didn't do this. It doesn't do this. They think that they know how to handle those things when they are not clearly prepared. So they think they don't need people. Okay, I think these ones are spawns actually. They think they don't need people prepared for this. So when the investor and the owner of the means of production realizes when he realizes that the person who was elected by the population of a country does not have the minimum amount of wisdom, of being humble enough as to admit, as to internally, it doesn't need to be public, internally as chief of the executive of a country, does not have the minimum amount of wisdom and being humble enough as to recognize that he has to delegate, he has to give that task to someone who is academically prepared for it. They get scared, naturally. The investors of a country, the companies, get scared, and they move their businesses outside of the countries as a natural reaction against ignorance, sadly. Because imagine if I am the one in charge of the executive power, and I say the things that I've been commenting to you right now. That, for example, this is a deadly trap. I think this guy is summoning them. And imagine I say these things. Well, the owner of the company will naturally get scared because of that. Now, by this I do not say that there shouldn't be laws to protect the worker from abuses from the employer. Yes, there need to be, but not to the point they disrupt the natural flow of commerce, like it was in my country in Argentina. For example, when you try to fire someone in Argentina, right now, this is the law that we have right now, after 3 months, for example, and that's why I celebrated so much the other day, the company, the owner of the company, had to pay the equivalent of 2 minimum salaries per year worked of the worker. And there was an industry of doing trials, of doing labor trials that disrupted the flow of commerce. That scared all of the companies, and it caused inflation, and everyone became poor. You know who are the ones that are the first people hit by inflation, by this marvelous idea. You know which are the first ones that are hit by inflation? People. The lower class. Inflation hits the lower class the hardest. Why? Because they have no way of coverage. In my case, in the case of Argentina, what does the middle class and the high class, what do we do in that sense to cover from inflation? We had 17,000 potential inflation when they left 2 years ago. Do you know what we do? We cover, we buy dollars, for example. We buy dollars, for example, but they can't. The lower class can't. And because of that, inflation hits the lower class the hardest. Because of that. So, at the end of the day, Marxism goes up against lower classes, first and foremost, believe it or not. Believe it or not, they are the ones that are hit the hardest by inflation, because of that. Sorry, I need to kill the demons, now I'll read your next comment, Patrick. Sorry, because these demons are driving me crazy. I don't know where they are coming from, I don't know if this shit is a bug, but I want to believe they are summons. I was talking to my friend earlier today and I heard something surprising. I am happy to do anything as long as I don't have to think too well, that is as long as I don't have to think too much. Why are people afraid to think more deeply? And he stopped there. So he said, I'm happy to do anything as long as I don't have to think too... No, well, that is extremely sad. That is deeply sad. No, it's like going back to being fucking caveman. It's like going back to being fucking caveman, Patrick. Sadly, why are people afraid to think more deeply? Aren't they afraid of becoming slaves to false ideologies like the communism, relativism, and hedonism? Amazing question, Patrick. Amazing question. Amazing question. Ah, well, this worked. For that matter, I could get over here. Amazing question, Patrick. Absolutely amazing question. Remember what I told you the other day? Education rules the nation. Education rules the nation, 100%, Patrick. However, when you encourage the population, this was another thing. Karl Marx, besides liking alcohol, he liked drugs. Candy, indeed. Candy. So, I bet you see the relationship between this numbing effect, and obviously I got mad because he's a candy deal. He's a candy seller, let's say. Has a good heart. Christian family, has goals. He's already in the military with an honorable rank at 18. And with all of that, he sells the candy? Well, he has hope, that's for sure. Then he at least has hope somehow. It is a real shame, because that life is a description that doesn't fit with a person like that. Hopefully, once he reaches a bit more of maturity, he can come to his senses. In that sense, he's a different bro. He's not. He's a different. Okay, it's a different person. Okay. So it's a different person that also. Okay. I get the point. Okay. It's a different one. Okay. It's a different one. Okay. So, okay. Different than the one that you commented to me about initially. Okay. Well, that one has some hope, I guess. Then, but going back to it, they don't like to think too much. Okay. That is related to the intellectual coefficient of the. He's not hopeless. Let's just say it. Okay. He's not. Okay. I get the point. So, okay. It's a different one. Pretty much. Going back to your question, as long as why are people afraid to think more deeply? Remember the allegory of the cave of Plato that I commented to you about, in which all of the cavemen were inside of the cave, and naturally, uh, one of them saw the light of the outside shining through the cave, and they could finally get out of the cave that they had been for centuries to protect themselves from the fucking dinosaurs, and finally get out and basically create civilization, and then create Greece and create logic and everything, and society flourished. What would have happened if the initial caveman hadn't hadn't had the courage to get out of the cave and tell the rest, come outside, the dinosaurs are no longer killing us, they are extinct, and we can live much better outside than inside of the cave? They cover from the explosion. Alright, I presume that's just getting getting out of it. Sandler's chamber. Enter the building through the wall. Let's go. Painful by default. What would have happened? Well, society would have never flourished. This is the case of what you are describing. Your friend is in the state in which the caveman that Plato described, the sad part of this is that Plato described this like 1800 years ago. That's the sad part of the situation of what you described previously. I am happy to do anything as long as I don't have to think too much. It is daunting. It instills a deep fear for people listening to putting in the effort to think like that, because precisely it takes a lot of neural activity, Patrick. It does take a lot of neural activity. It has been studied that we human beings could fuel. We have the same electrical energy in our brain when it is developed and everything as to light a bulb. But that is not free. You have to put in a lot of neurological, let's say, hopefully the word is right, neurological effort in that sense. And that is difficult, just like it was for the cavemen to get out of the cave. Just like it was for the cavemen to get out of the cave. It is much easier, is much more seductive from the side of relativism. That is more back to relativism, the phrase that he used more than communism. I am happy to do anything as long as I don't have to think too much. As long as I don't have to think too much. That is relativism, because see that everything is related to taking responsibility from the individual, assigning it to society, so the person ends up like that because he thinks he's not responsible for anything and cannot change anything. Pretty much. It's destroying personal responsibility. Have you noticed that everyone nowadays talks rights, about rights instead of obligations? When was the last time you heard someone talk about duty or obligations instead of rights? No, it's always rights. It's never obligations. No one has responsibilities. Overthink is better than not thinking at all. No, yes, for sure. For sure. For sure. Yes. Yes, for sure. Overthinking is better than not thinking at all. Yes, of course. Of course. Then, of course, you need to have decision to not just be a passive subject that looks at reality. That's the quote I got from a Candy Addict DSO player. W, no, no. Overthinking is better than not thinking at all. Yes, of course, overthinking is better. Because there's neurological activity in the brain and connections are being established. If you don't think ever about any shit ever, then your neural activity goes to zero. and the neural connections of the brain end up getting destroyed. Of course it is. Of course it is. What? Who's late? Oh, you're not him. What a relief. That was an impressive entrance. So what can I do for you? You are looking for a man with a flute. Well, then you mean Slade Thorne, my former friend. He was here some minutes ago, but you've missed him. Slade asked me if I would be his research partner again. I was shocked. After that, after all that has happened, I thought he vanished completely, body and soul. But now he's back. I turned down his offer, so he stationed his demons in this building until I reconsider my answer. Please chase them away. Okay. Defeat all the demons in the training hall of Fireball Rogue. Perfect. Okay, we have to protect this guy. Killing the demons. I wonder if we are 90% through the Keg W. No, yes, no, of course. He said he criticized overthinking things by posing to you the rhetoric question: is overthinking better than not thinking at all? No, of course it is better. Of course it is better. There's neurological activity. Anyone anyone who isn't affected by the candy selling can tell that. I presume in that sense. So yeah, by the candy addict Drakensang online player. Don't tell me we have candy sellers in Drakensang Online. That's an interesting combination, Patrick. We have candy sellers in Drakensang Online. That's an interesting combination. I can imagine as the guy is as the guy is over at King's Hill, he's using the main chat to to say, I have some. What was it? I have um, I have 900 grams of vigorous essence to kill the demons. Yeah, vigorous essence. So he doesn't get banned by the developers. I presume that would be banned by the developers at least. I have some vigorous 300 grams of vigorous essence. It warranties that you will kill all of the mobs in the room in 9 seconds. Yeah, I can imagine. That's a combination. You can't real max your Drakensang character without the cat. No, 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 no. Good. What a concept! What a concept! What a concept! Yeah, yeah. That one would be another good selling slogan. You need to get to level 100, and you don't have a group, and you have to farm to unlock the rest of the story quest. Then talk to me. Yeah. By the way, people, today, after the great election that we had here, right now, fortunately, it is being proven the United States, basically Trump had a talk with the president of Brazil, who is a communist. He had a talk that basically the US wants to reorganize his backyard, fortunately, his backyard, here in South America, and magically today, we woke up to the news that here in Brazil, the big, huge drug lords are being fine. This is interesting. I love how anti-punishment policies can be so toxic to a society. They had a talk. Basically, Trump told the president of Brazil, "I want to get rid of. Oh, it's over. It's over. I want to get rid of drug trafficking in South America." Argentina just had an election. Basically, he told this to him on Malaysia. They had a bilateral, let's say, they had a diplomatic encounter. Argentina is getting cleansed, etc., etc. You have to get rid of the drug laws. He sent the police. He obeyed that because he also understands he's a communist, but he's not stupid. He also understands that you cannot have a country governed by that shit. He sent the police and see if anti-punishment in a society is toxic, people. When the police arrived, when the army arrived, we woke up to the news here. We are looking at it. The city's on fire, basically. One of the main big cities of Brazil. When the police arrived, see if it was toxic. The impunity that the drug lords directly had drones. They had drones and they dropped bombs on the army, on the officers of the army that were sent in. And from there on, it was an all-out conflict. There's 64 drug lords dead, and etc. But see the impunity. What happens if you let them advance? See what happens. See what happens. The impunity. The impunity. They were there to arrest them. They were there to arrest them, and they opened fire against the police and the army, first and foremost. Like directly. They thought they were the owners of the territory. But well, that is to back my theory, as I always tell you, that drug lords are to be removed from society if you want a healthy country. From level 100, you need to farm another 6 months of constant boring ass farm to max your character. Okay, and that's where the candy sellers prey upon. I see. That's where the candy sellers prey upon. No, it's just as a silly joke, people. As a silly joke. As I told you, if you let them advance, they take a whole country. So, in the case of the big ones, fortunately, they are being executed. Pillow, Pillow, my friend. You say Russia. I say fuck. You say Poland. I say lab. See, I made a rhyme even. You say Russia. I say fuck. I say Poland. No, you say Poland, I say love. Nice. Pillow, today's it's a bad day for relativism, especially to debate against me. My country is officially now the strategic partner of the United States. Why so? Because we had an election on Sunday, 2 days after my birthday, on the 26th. My birthday was on the 24th. And I got a nice birthday gift. Good on you, bro. And we are officially, Argentina is now officially the strategic partner of the United States in South America. We are officially the most conservative of the region and probably in the world. Our crazy president got control of the legislative after 70 years, 70 fucking years of communism, socialism, controlled by Russia, precisely, and Iran and China. Now go invade Venezuela, or I'm happy for you. Thank you, Bill. Now go invade Venezuela, or best. It won't be us, of course. It won't be us, of course. But Donald Trump will get rid of the drug lords terrorizing the population on purpose to free the prisoners and spread chaos and terror. As we are talking as well, Brazil is executing 64 drug lords. The region is getting cleansed of criminals, of devils. I don't think that we're going anytime soon. He is. This time he is. I think this time he is. Thanks to Trump, of course. Thanks to Trump. He is. This time he is. He will be the test subject of the biggest. It's already in the Caribbean Sea. He will be the test subject for all of the world to have a nice little demonstration of the untested new nuclear carrier of the United States. It's a structure built by Chavez, not very sturdy, backed by Russia and China. It is like that, backed by Russia and China. But the bus driver, Maduro was a bus driver. I don't know if you know it. Nothing against bus drivers, but you can imagine that someone who governs a country needs to be a bit intellectually prepared for those things. My love to all bus drivers in the world. You're all amazing. This one is not. This one that I'm talking about is not. He's a killer and terrorist. He has no fucking idea. He has no fucking idea that. Well, he knows, I think, but he has an idea of the dimension, of the exponential dimension, of being the test subject of still the unseen latest air carrier, the Gerald Ford of the United States. We still don't know the capabilities. They haven't been reported yet. So, really, yes, he is a terrorist bus driver. Indeed. Indeed, he is, in case you are interested, Pillow. This time, I think he will have the honor of that killer, that communist killer like Stalin and Mao, will have the pleasure of being the test subject of the Gerald Ford. That means that is real, true. Yes, the carrier is already launching missiles to the drug trafficking boats. It has already destroyed 7 in the Atlantic and 4 in the Pacific. Besides that, the Secretary of State, Rubio of Trump, this time has authorized the CIA and the FBI to do special operations. This time I think is for real. I think this is a shitty prediction because I could be wrong. I hope I'm not. I think before the end of the year, there will be at least one military maneuver. It has already started, but I think there will be a huge military maneuver. And he will have the pleasure and honor of being the test subject of the Gerald Ford, fortunately. He will be the first test subject, and a nice little warning for China, for Russia, for Middle East terrorists. It will be a nice little test subject and warning for the rest of the killers that we have had running free around the world since the Obama administration. It will be a nice little sign. China is growing in strength. Okay, we begin, Pillow. We begin. But we begin the R fighting. We begin the R fighting. China is not a single nuclear from Sierra Leone to China doesn't have a single nuclear submarine. It doesn't have a single nuclear powered submarine. The red terror is spreading. They still cannot harness nuclear energy to create a carrier or a submarine. They don't need them. Yes, they need them, because otherwise you cannot reposition troops all over the world in 30 minutes like the United States. They have intercontinental ballistic missiles. Doesn't matter. The carrier that I'm talking about is much, much faster, because the planes on top of it are supersonic. It doesn't matter. Looks like today we'll have military stream. Military stream, people. We'll have military stream, people. Let's play. What was the tabletop game that we played as children? What was it? Crisis, but there was another one. What was the name? What was the name of the tabletop game? The famous one, people. Which one was the name? I don't remember the name now. Don't make me Google it. Which was the name of the tabletop game? Today we have military. According to the University of Cambridge. Oh, my. That's my university. That's my university. That's where I graduated for the first time. But sadly, now we know that the great United Kingdom is sadly taken by No. Starmer is not. a killer like the ones that I'm mentioning. Completely different. Still, I disagree with all of the policies, and I think he has done terrible things. But at least, let's say, it's not a drug trafficking regime like the ones that I'm mentioning that should all be dealt with like. Which was the name of the tabletop game? Okay, we have military stream today, people. We have military stream. Okay, military are fighting people here. Hey, this thing is recovering health. This thing is recovering health. I need to kill it once and for all. Hang on, Pillow. I see the messages. I want to deal with this thing. I see why I had problems with those ones previously. They recover health. The speed of the hydronic bombs from Houston, Beijing would take about 7 minutes, which gives Beijing 6 minutes to respond. More than enough to end the world. It's a nuclear stalemate. If 6 people are in a room filled with oil, why does it matter if one guy has matches, one guy has a lighter, and a different guy has a flamethrower? Okay, Pillow. I see you came with arguments. You came with arguments for the military debate today. Okay, no worries. We'll have military are fighting. No worries. The Chinese people in, why does it matter? Because the people in the room, out of the people in the room, thanks to the great secret services of the United States, I assure you that none of the Chinese officers would make it to the button to push it to launch any shit, and the whole country would implode several hours before the person in charge would get to the button to press it. Incorrect. No. Very correct. Otherwise, explain to me how is it possible that all of the cell phones of the Middle East individuals that we saw 1 year ago magically imploded, taking out a lot of the big bad people there immediately in an operation that then it was disclassified, that the cell phones, that the mobile phones with this that they would implode, that they had been using for 2 years, it had been prepared at least 5 years before. 5 years before. The radars on Chinese manufactured islands have advanced radars specifically designed to detect them. No, I don't mean I don't mean missiles. I don't mean I don't mean missiles. Not even mentioning the satellites with classified information which could be used for this. No, I don't mean the US sending missiles to the Chinese. I mean that they have spies inside of the Chinese base. They have spies inside of the Chinese base, agents that will take out the big bad Chinese person with the flamethrower, the lighter, and etc. Everyone in the room, before they get to the button. I mean that because of what I told you. The mobile phones, as empirical evidence, the mobile phones of the big bad Middle East guys recently that they had been using for 5 years, thinking that they were quite intelligent, just like the Chinese, that they were quite intelligent, and oh surprise, they exploded, and taking them all out without damaging the civilians or anything. Then what is your point? Not even mention, do they have spies in all 1600 and hang on a second, yes, that is my point. They do have the spies. And they would take out all of the Chinese individuals before getting to the button. Is this a James Bond movie or what? Says Patrick. No. It's very real. Sure, bro. Yes, they would. Terrible mistake, Pillow, underestimating the United States. You disappoint me with that. It's what we all did as Europeans during World War II. We should learn from the past. Sure, bro. One slip up on the planet Earth is told, nah, it's not like that. It's not like that. It's not like that because the Chinese also know that it would be a quite stupid thing to do, and they will understand. And they understand by now, trust me, that that they are in no position to do those stupid things. That's why they use puppets. That's why they use puppets. Because they know what happens the second they come out of the shadows to do those stupid things. It is though. 11 missiles is all it would take. They wouldn't get to be launched. They wouldn't get to be launched. As long as the United States is around and not controlled by someone like Mr. Joseph Biden Jr., it's not gonna happen. What are the odds of that? 1%. Not 1%, fellow. Why don't you trust the spies? You don't trust in spies? You don't like James Bond? You don't like has 2%. You don't like one? You'll have to watch. What was it? In English, the name was completely different. Get Smart. You don't like Get Smart, Pillow? Who here has watched Get Smart? You don't trust in Get Smart. Super Agent 86? You don't trust in that, Pillow? You don't trust it? I can give you examples. Maybe Era is a spy too on this point. Yes, I'm an agent of the United States specifically sent to spread the word of the greatness of McDonald's, I guess. Sorry, people, it's just that I am so happy this week. It was the greatest birthday gift I received in quite a while. It was the greatest birthday gift that I received in quite a while. I'm very happy, people. I'm very happy. Brother, just admit that a war between China and the US would end in quadrants. 15 minutes. Yes, no. It would end in 1 minute, with China being obliterated. Do you doubt it? How many air carriers does China have? How many, Pillow? How many? Nuclear? 0. I think they don't have any non-nuclear as well. They are building the first one. The United States has 14. 14. If I'm not mistaken. And the Gerald Ford, fortunately, we will have the pleasure of seeing its capabilities. I think with Maduro for the first time. For the first time, we'll see what the Gerald Ford is. And this is what we know. This is what we know. I bet that more than half of the arsenal of the United States, we don't know about it. People, but I can assure you one thing. There's one thing we know. So, at least 2 active, 3rd in trials. Okay, that's for China. The United States has, what, 14? It was 15. The Gerald Ford is nuclear fuel. Not a single one nuclear fuel. In the case of China. In the case of the United States, several nuclear fueled. You know what it means that it's nuclear fueled, people, right? It means that it doesn't need to refuel any kind. Hang on a second. Any kind of. What's with these demons that they don't stop coming against me? They're being spawned or what shit? I think they're being spawned by some kind of other demon. But I just killed it. What's the point of this shit? It means that it doesn't have to stop to refuel the gasoline or whatever they used previously, the oil or whatever. They don't use, of course, the oil or whatever they use to fuel them conventionally. They can go around the planet sending supersonic planes. The supersonic planes are faster than the guy going to the button and pressing it. I thought China. Okay, so at least 2 active, 3 in total. It doesn't matter. 11 missiles of unestimated missiles stored by China. Oh well, if we started to count the land arsenal of the US, Pillow, I don't think it's the best debate for China. I thought China is powerful enough to deal with China, but China is powerful enough to deal with the US. But when I saw US military cost, man, precisely, that's my point, Patrick. Half of the worldwide, half of the worldwide military spending, half of the worldwide, the total gross product of military spending, 50% is the US. But not from now, in since World War II. In the past 80 years, I love it when they say, for example, that 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 Russia has more active nuclear silos than the US. I love it. I love it. I love that argument. It has 20 more nuclear silos than the US. That means that the arsenal is better. This is the same with China. Yes, probably that is the last report from World War II, probably, or from the Cold War, basically from the Cold War. The last report from the Cold War. The real one. You think they are going to tell us? Do you think the United States is stupid enough as to tell us the the one that they've had since the Cold War? You think that is the case, people? You think that is the case? You would be cute if you thought that. You would be cute, completely cute, if you thought that. No, evidently, you would be cute if you thought that. You think that they are going to tell us the arsenal that they've created after the Cold War? Of course not. And it must be so scary that they don't disclose it to the public. Okay, hang on. Now I will get to it. I just don't want these little guys to kill me again, because they are unbearable. Hang on a second, people. Hang on. Okay, this is the oil room metaphor all over again. This war is like the Soviet Union versus England. Soviet Union was big without any modern weapon. England had all of it. Do you think the Politburo... What's a Politburo? The bureaucrats. Pillow. Hello, what are the debates today, district? We have military debate today, district. Pillow is defending China, and I am defending, of course, the United States. China versus the US, says Pillow. Military debate. What was the name of the tabletop game, district? Maybe you know it. None of us can remember. You know what the Politburo is? No, I know what a bureaucrat is. Pillow versus Sarah like every day. No, it's not a fight. It's a debate, Patrick. We enrich our thoughts. Besides, I know that deep inside, Pillow likes debating with me, as the rest of the commie streamers cannot provide him any challenge of value. I bet that is the psychological situation, actually, here. Isn't it like that, Pillow? See? They don't trust that you actually like debating against me. See? That's the problem. What was the name of the tabletop game before I proceed? The one was Crisis. No, we're playing Risk? Could it be? Was it Risk? The one that we played back in school. It's the main elite of the Chinese state, which is not a No, a deeply ultra-capitalist. Yeah, capitalist for them. With communist political mode, indeed. It's all in the love of the debate. See? Even, see? Pillow appreciates debating against me. He even said the other day that... what was it? That I was the only streamer, it was Pillow, that hadn't banned or insulted, you said, throw a slur, the same, insulted you or banned you out of the ones that you tried to do the debate. You used the R fighting phrase against. So imagine that. I'll give you that. At least you are not a... No, please, Pillow, I don't want to get banned. It's alright, but I'll give you that. Also, there have been others. Okay. Well, coming from him, it's a compliment, people. Coming from him is a compliment. Thank you, Pillow. Thank you. No, and now 100 sub gifts. But generally, the more you disagree with them, the more they are inclined to ban. Yeah. You describe it like it goes against their idea of monopolizing the debate and those things. Uh, District. Tomorrow I will start with the Halloween special in case you are interested with the Darkness 2. I will start with that. Here I just wanted to do Drakensang today, but tomorrow I will do the... I'll do that one. I'll do the Halloween special tomorrow. With the Darkness 2. Great game that I promised to you. So, in case you're interested, it will be tomorrow. The Halloween stream that you asked me about. Okay? So, we'll do it tomorrow. Then, people, going back to the debate. Indeed, it is China versus the US, and Patrick says Pillow versus her as usual. Like every day. I love how you, Patrick, had it incorporated. That Pillow and I like debating. No, we're playing Risk today. Military stream because District, in case you don't know, in my country yesterday, we became, fortunately, this is such a pleasure to say it, this is such a pleasure that we are the strategic partner of the United States in South America, and that 64, that this was by the morning, drug lords in Brazil are being executed. See if it was toxic. People that when the police arrived, they directly grabbed some drones, as I was commenting, the drug lords in Brazil, and they drop bombs on the army as if it was nothing. The impunity. They just shot the drug lords and attacked them. Ah no, we are the owners of the territory. See what happens when you let them advance. Fortunately, 64 drug lords have been taken out after attacking the police. Of Brazil, after Donald Trump told the president of Brazil that they are clearing the backyard. They are finally clearing the backyard. That is South America. And now we have 64 less criminals running around when things work. Is police force strong in the U? Patrick, I don't know if it was an ironic question. I don't know if it was an ironic question. Good on you, bro. Pillow, I don't know. Thank you. The liberals are all yours for now. If you want them. If you Pillow laughs. I think it has to be an ironic question, Patrick. Of course it's powerful. Now I see that Pillow says, no, they are fucking weak. They cannot arrest anyone. Yes, fortunately, it is the best in the world. The best in the world, without a doubt. Without a doubt. That is the best joke I heard in a week. You think the police of the United States is bad? Pillow? You think it's weak? Oh, that would be cute. That would be cute. That the police force isn't strong in the US. Okay, I'm sure all of our European countries are doing a better job by now. Yeah, without a doubt. He asked if the police force in the US is strong. Is it or not for you? I think it is, without a doubt. It is the strongest in the world. I think it's the strongest in the world, fortunately. That's why it's an organized society. That's like asking if Switzerland is neutral. That one would be an interesting debate. Yes, they are somehow neutral. Yeah, they are. I do think that deep inside, in their minds, or Hungary is anti-EU. Well, then we agree on that one 100%. The best joke I heard. Wait, as you can see, Patrick, or that Russia is an authoritarian regime, let's say. Indeed. Well, Arg, they were too many. There was a man with a flute, and it seems that he controlled the demons with it. They left through a demon gate and took a friend with them. I'm sorry I couldn't save her. Okay. I didn't know that the demons can be controlled. Please go to Carham and tell Amon what happened. He should know what to do. I need a little rest before I can stand up. Don't worry about me. You need to go carry. Okay. So, people. Of course, Patrick, replying to your answer, Pillow laughed, but I will reply to your answer. It is the strongest in the world due to the fact that in the migration period, precisely, the United States had armed militias in the independence period, basically, and that created a strong sentiment. Sorry, I had to shit in the chat something. I'm bored. No, Patrick, no worries, no worries, no worries. I'll tell you why it is the strongest. Because precisely in the independence period, understandable. Haven't I say no, 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 Pillow, no. No, in fact, he stays even beyond most of the stream. No. It is like that because of during the independence period they had armed militias, and that created a strong sentiment of the police force. Indeed, it's like that. It's like that. Demons on the rise. What? Someone took the flute of the shelter? Narina was kidnapped. The shadows cause so much chaos in the underworld that the material storms are growing stronger. Whole places are vanishing. And now this. We must stop the demons and save Narina at all costs. The demons can send the dead into eternal oblivion. To reach them, you need to travel through the demon gate as well. But as I can tell you, you can find Carleton, one of the Grand Guardians. He knows more about the demons than everyone else. Search for Carleton in Tetaconatl. So, going back to the debate. 14 air care 14 carriers. The carriers can launch supersonic planes before the Chinese guy gets to the button. Not counting the spies, of course, that we were debating. Not counting the spies that would kill probably all of the Chinese regime in a blink of an eye. Now, getting to... No, you were commenting about the structure of the Chinese society. Which one were the message there? That deeply ultra-capitalist, this is true, with communist political motives. Completely true. It's all in the... There we go. It's the main elite of the Chinese state. Okay. Same with the 3 Chinese carriers. They are not nuclear. That means they have to stop to refuel. The ones from the United States can stay 60 days running around the planet with bases that the United States has around the planet without refueling anything at all. It's all nuclear energy that they are fortunately extracting from here now, and we are getting the investments. So we help the good guys and get money in return now. We are in the work to sign a free trade agreement both with the European Union and the United States. The stock market is up by 43% after the election. I am so happy, people. They can launch the missiles, bro. They would be intercepted right in the sky by the same planes of the air carriers of the sea carriers. Sorry, in the air by the planes launched by the sea carriers. Not to mention Taiwan. Pillow, what do you think of Taiwan? They have a huge problem there, like the United States supposedly has with Venezuela. Here, this will be such a pleasure that the killer bus driver will be the test subject, that criminal will be the test subject, that drug trafficker will be the test subject of the Gerard Ford. You have no idea how happy I am about those things. I accurately read the report on that. There is a 57% chance of shooting one down. One of the missiles launch has 57% chance. If the dictionary defines something, like humans defining it, they are constrained by the relative knowledge that they have available below. Just like if we define things in a dictionary, like I told you, what would have happened if in World War II Germany we thought like that? Well, that's how relativism operates. Pretty much. We are bound by the knowledge, the relative knowledge of our perception, and We disregard objective reality. Fortunately, there are boring people like me who are realists. And a realist thinker will tell you that the report does not account for the secret operations that the United States could have, so I would incorporate that element in the equation. With each next missile, the chance of a successful shutdown decreases by 2.3%. I see. There is one relativist in the chat. I don't know who says patriot. No. 99% of the population is relativist patriot by now. No, not 99, 90, I would say. 90%, because we're not counting religious people. Maybe I will be a bit more positive after the election the other day. I would say between 80 and 90, let's say. Between 80 and 90. Well, the truth is that Russia would be crushed within 5 minutes by Donald Trump. Finally some common sense. Finally some common sense, Pillow. And if Russia would, what's the difference with China? By the way, I will just highlight these people. Do you know one of the last phrases of Napoleon was before he started killing like all of the communists do with the French Revolution and everything? Do you know what? And then 100 years afterwards, the mustache man in Germany and the Soviet Union, because they are a kleptocratic state with zero carriers, and you think China is not a kleptocratic state? Don't tell me you love China, Pillow, that you dislike Russia but you love China. Please don't tell me that. That would be a huge contradiction, because they both have a communist ideal, even if they are capitalist economically, due to necessity, because they understood that precisely Karl Marx didn't know a thing about economics. Precisely. Don't tell me that you actually love China, because they are ours. No. No, at least you changed the word, but still, no. That's the difference between the Soviet Union. No, they are an ultra-nationalist, ultra-colonialist, ultra-capitalist, but they are not a kleptocracy in their current state. Really? So you would say that Chinese companies are not a front owned by the government? Yes, they are owned by the government. And when you have that scares investors. And if you scare investors, you can never be first world power, because they use the cheap labor force instead. Oh, they are. So, if they are, then just the purpose of them is different. Well, if they are a front, no, but that deeply affects the economic system of the country negatively. Because imagine if in Russia the purpose is feeding the oligarchy. Okay, wait. But about the Chinese companies, if you bind together, this is economics theory, people. If you bind together the ultimate fate of the state, in China the purpose is feeding the Chinese corporate system. Okay, perfect. But they are a front for the state. At the end of the day, they are. If you bind the executive power, in this case they control also the legislative, the sum of the state, if you bind that to the economic system of a society, you make it more vulnerable. The United States understood that quite early on. Why? Because if the Chinese regime ever has a political weakness, it directly affects the companies. In the case of the United States, not. Because the companies, not all, but most, are independent from the ultimate fate of the state. If the Chinese state has a political defeat, the relationship that they established directly affects the economic system. In the United States, no, because they are separated. The Chinese Politburo. I don't know what you mean by that word, Pillow. I think I've never seen it. You mean bureaucrats, that they have bureaucrats, but at the end of the day, even if you use fronts, I understand it is like using fronts. The proletariat regime, no. Okay, whatever it is, they are bound together. That's the problem that I would highlight, that makes the economic system weaker. They are bound together. If the state falls, has any problem, like, I don't know, Taiwan getting more independence or getting a US base or whatever, it directly affects the economy. In the case of the United States, it's not that much. It is still affected, but it's not that much. They can still have ways to defend themselves. In that sense. Google what Politburo is. No, right now I'm playing. Please tell it to me. Bureaucrat. What is it? I never heard that word. I don't know if... Of course it is. Well... Of course it is. What? But it's like stabbing a dragon with a spear. Nah. It is directly affected by that. The second the Chinese regime has any... is affected by any geopolitical situation, it'll be affected deeply in its economy. The United States doesn't have that problem. It doesn't have that problem in that sense. The Politburo, I will Google what that shit is because you've already named it constantly. Let me Google it. Politburo. Ah, well, there. The Political Bureau is the highest organ of the Central Committee in the Communist parties. Okay. The Chinese leaders. The term is also sometimes used to refer to similar organs, the main assholes of the state. Okay. In socialism and there's the Political Bureau of... Okay. Politburos are part of governing structure in the former and existing communist states. Okay. Like the oligarchy. It's like the oligarchy. What's the difference between that and an oligarchy? Yeah, pretty much. The owners of the show, let's say. Okay. So you say the Politburo is feeding the Chinese corpo system. Okay, they are feeding them. The Chinese Politburo. Okay. Okay, so the oligarchs, anybody can join the lower Politburo. Okay. So, okay, everyone can. Okay, so instead of being an oligarchy, it's a multigarchy, I guess. Only the most rich and influential people can become oligarchs. Okay, I see. Now then it is an oligarchy. Okay. I don't know how you can say that these ones will be successful, but the Russians won't, because it's pretty much the same shit. I don't see any fucking difference. Sorry. It is difficult for me to spot the difference. The only difference you gave me was the R difference, because the R in the case of the other one, of the other regime. But I don't see any fucking difference basically between the Russian one and that one. We can, because you haven't been getting Yes, I have. You're wrong. You are deeply wrong. All of South America has been. You are deeply wrong about that. We have been. Not maybe as much as Poland directly there being a neighbor. But for the last 70 years, I've had fucking inflation because of the influence of it in the region. Don't cry for me, Argentina. If I ask you how much Peron sucks, then you would understand how much he sucks. There was a great phrase by Winston Churchill at the end of World War II, when finally in 1955 we got rid of that putrid filth. I always say people that in the case of my own country I do insult. In the case of other countries I try not to. In the case of my own, I do. It's like that extra right I have. When we finally got rid of that, Winston Churchill said, now World War II has finally ended. Only now, in 1955, 10 years afterwards, when that miserable individual finally was bombarded, Argentina went to the United States, fortunately, and all of the weapons of World War II that had been left there by the United States that they didn't need to use, because if they would have used all of the arsenal, it would have been even worse. So we used weapons from World War II. Fortunately, the Argentine maritime force, it was the Marines, they bombarded the city that you see here where I live in. They bombarded the whole city until he was expelled from the capital of the country and he had to go to Uruguay. Was black, authoritarian, and poor. Venezuela and Cuba, I would say directly. Venezuela and Cuba. They are like that. They will be covered by smoke once the Gerard Ford starts its routine. They're real close, but the real answer is not here. Okay. In that sense, if I ask you how much, no, are you really interested in the story of my country, Pillow? It will be quite illustrative of why I am so conservative for you. It will answer a lot of your perceptions that you may have about me. If you're interested, I can tell you. Otherwise, I don't want to bore you. I'm aware, Juan, you wrote it wrong. Sorry. Here. Juan, like that. There we go. Okay. You are aware of who he is. Okay. Carson isn't here. Now, you would excuse me, I have to save the place at all costs. The matter is only short. It's deeper than that. It's deeper than that, Pillow. It's deeper than that. If you are interested, I can give you you may understand why I'm so conservative. I can give you, it's deeper than that. It's something related to economics. Let's fucking roll. Okay, Pillow. I was talking with Patrick about Marxism and etc. and he told me, well, it's a fucking utopia, it's impossible to practice. And I replied to him, it's not that. Most people use that criticism. I don't like that criticism that communism is a utopia. That's not the problem. The problem is that it goes against very basic economic principles. So the person that you are naming, also went against basic economic principles. For example, if I told you I can exterminate poverty right now, everyone earns $3 million regardless of the job, what would you describe as a problem with that? If you find any problem, maybe you don't. I don't think so because you're intelligent, but still. Inflation. Good. Inflation is bad. Good. I knew you were intelligent. Good. Imagine that a person, that one that you are naming, convinces the population that that concept doesn't exist for 70 years. There's a next stage. You know what the next state of inflation is? What's the next state of inflation? It has a name. There's something worse. After 70 years of printing and printing bills. It's called hyperinflation. Economic downturn and a hyperinflation. Indeed. Hyperinflation. That has been the history of my country for 70 years, until 2 years ago. We needed a doctor in economics that somehow did a miracle to turn it around after 70 years. Hyperinflation. Okay, that's why education rules the nation, that's why relativism is bad, and etc. Because he could convince the population that it didn't exist, that you could just print more bills, nothing happens, everyone is earning $3 million and we solve poverty tomorrow. Right now. That, of course, supply and demand. The currency is, as I was telling Patrick at the beginning, it is another good of the economy, and if supply is so high, demand goes to shit. And basically your currency loses all value. Now, imagine for 70 years, we got to 5 bankruptcies of the state, and 2 years ago, 17,000. 17,000 yearly inflation. Somehow there was a miracle and a person reverted it after 70 years. Because you cannot spend more money than what your taxpayers can give you. I could understand this easily as I was 5 years old, but sadly other part of the population didn't understand this and kept voting this shit in the name of social assistance. It is true that he was an absolute fucking criminal because he was a liar, of course,